May's astrology is looking really interesting. It's heavy on the Plutonian energy, for one, that planet of death and rebirth, like it's named after the god of the underworld. That is the real undercurrent for May. On top of the fact Geminis are very much defrosting. Gemini season kicking off towards the end of May. I am a Gemini, you may or may not already know. Birthday season is right around the corner. It's exciting. For me, but we're going to dive right in. So we do start with towards the end of April because there was a massive transit that occurred that we did touch on in April's astrology video. So if you haven't watched that, you want to recap on it, check that out. I'll pop the link up top here. Uranus entered Gemini. Last time Uranus was in Gemini was about 84 years ago. And Uranus is a rebellious planet. So while the rest of the planets of the solar system are spinning, while they're kind of orbiting the sun, Uranus is almost on its side. And that speaks to, I guess, the nature of Uranus itself. Like, it is the rebel of the solar system. It is the great awakener. It likes to create a revolution and an uproar, and it shakes up the very foundation, right? And so we've had Uranus transiting Taurus for the last 7 years, and that's been creating a real shake-up in our sense of security, in finances, in what we place value in our material possessions, and what all this means to us in terms of our security and safety and our comfort, right? And now Uranus enters Gemini, the messenger of the zodiac, that sign that governs technology, communication, self-expression. It's like the early stages of education. It's that traditional third house ruler. So that's like when we first learn how to communicate, how to put our voice to things, and what our kind of basic understanding and the foundation of, I guess, our greater belief systems that we see later on in that ninth house. This is when they kind of take form. And so Uranus in Gemini is shaking up that very foundation of our belief systems. Those belief systems have shaped who we are and our own kind of personal identity in what we think, feel, believe, experience, what we perceive, essentially. It's shaking up that very foundation. It is going to influence technology. It is going to influence messaging. It is going to have a real theme around AI. My hope for this transit is that it creates such a shakeup and such a great awakening around the destruction that AI is causing, not only to the planet and the environment, but also to our own ability to think for ourselves. So I'm really hoping and praying and manifesting this transit is going to create a collective uproar and a great rejection of AI so that we come back to actually thinking for ourselves. That being said, as we begin May, we start off with a pagan holiday on the 1st, and that leads us into the full moon in Scorpio. It is technically on the 2nd, but it's at 3:23 a.m. So early hours. So you can think the full moon, when we want to do our rituals in the evening, we can do that on the 1st. May 1st, put that one in the diary. This marks the end of the harvest season, and it's kind of when we start to enter those darker and colder months. This is a time where the veil between the physical and the spiritual realms are a lot thinner. And so traditionally this was celebrated coming together with bonfires and practicing divination and connecting with ancestors and with spirit. I'm just mindful of this lighting right now. Let's shuffle over here. I don't know how much more sunlight I'm going to get. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Feel a sense of ease when it comes to wanting to connect with spirits, with ancestors. If that's something that you're into, you want to explore with a Scorpio full moon. Scorpio is that sign that really rules over death, more of things of that like psychic nature, taboo topics that we often skim over the surface. Scorpio feels comfortable there. It feels at home there. It's amongst the esoteric, you know. A full moon illuminates when the moon's the biggest and the brightest in the sky. And so it's really shining a light, like an expose on these Scorpio themes, and it's aligning with that pagan holiday when the veil is already thin. That being said, if you are wanting to dive deeper into your own esoteric divination, any sort of ancestral work, altar for your ancestors, I have one set up here with items that belong to my grandparents and my dad who have all passed on. So tending to that altar on the Scorpio full moon. This full moon can also feel, I did mention expose, so we are feeling exposed, we are feeling open, we can feel really vulnerable. Scorpio is comfortable with all of those 8th house kind of taboo topics. We might not be, and so this full moon can be a little unnerving, but trusting that this whole experience and the whole purpose of this moon is to create that greater sense of vulnerability so that you can cultivate greater intimacy. And I'm not talking about intimacy just in other partnerships and relationships. That may very well be true depending on what house is ruled by Scorpio in your own chart. But greater intimacy with yourself, also with maybe projects, things that you're passionate about. Collectively, what we may be experiencing is that exposed vulnerability, but ultimately to create intimacy, because you cannot have intimacy without vulnerability. They go hand in hand. So get comfortable. The time for probably doing some shadow work, integrating all parts, the light and the dark parts of ourselves, maybe the parts that we're not super excited about, maybe not the parts that we like to kind of showcase and broadcast to the world, but going to be a really good thing. So we have that begins, that's over the 1st and the 2nd of May. Then as we move later into the week, we're going to see the planet of the mind, so Mercury, that's going to shift into the sign of Taurus. And so our thoughts may slow to a steadier pace. This can feel more grounded in how we are going to vocalize things, how we're going to interpret information and then express those things. We may find that the pace of thoughts may be less racy, more grounded, steadfast, patient. Maybe we're finding that we're being more responding more than reacting. I feel like when Mercury's in Aries, we may come across a little more heated and impulsive. And so as it shifts into Taurus, this is steadier thought pace, which is a really beautiful kind of tail end after having, Uranus shift into Gemini. We've also got Venus in Gemini, and then Scorpio full moon. That was like some kind of bigger, more confronting things. And then Mercury shifts into that earth sign. The pace kind of slows. We're feeling a little bit more comfortable, maybe in our minds, and how we are then verbalizing those things and expressing those things out to the world around us, right? This is a really beautiful energy to slow down in how you consume information as well. Again, touching on what I said at the beginning, allowing us to break free from kind of addiction and obsession in moving towards this fast pace, AI generated, have all the machines do the thinking for us, take out the process of actually like creating a thought, creating a concept, an idea, fleshing that out and producing something, whether that be some writing or art or content or music or just an email, like the way people are using AI to generate emails now. Just taking a step back from that, allowing Mercury and Taurus to create a slowing down and a more just taking the time to form an opinion, to seek out the information, the evidence, the answers you're after, gather the research and really chew on and digest the information and form an opinion and a thought for yourself. Think for yourself. And it's okay to take time to do that. Like, we're in a world where there's an expectation for things to be readily available instantaneously, and therefore applies pressure to us to be able to produce so much instantaneously, because that's kind of like where the bar's set. And that's not human nature. Like, it's okay to go slow. Take your time. Like, we don't need to rush. And we're seeing the downside of always being so rushed. Like, we are overloaded. Our systems are overloaded. We're burnt out. And the idea of slowing down, it's almost like can equate to being less productive. And it's like, that's not it. Actually chew on information, digest it, form a thought, take your time, read a book, like slowmaxxing. Mercury and Taurus, slowmaxxing. And so I did say at the beginning, heavy on the Plutonian energy, and that is now further backed up with Pluto retrograde that is beginning. Pluto is that outermost, I'm going to call it a planet, outermost planet. It is the slowest moving planet. So when it goes retrograde, it's not going to be so abrupt and chaotic like we feel when Mercury's retrograde, for example. Pluto, it's more subtle, and when a planet's retrograde, it's not like the energy so outwardly anymore. It becomes more introspective, reflective, and internalized. Pluto, as I said, it's named after the god of the underworld. It's all about the death and rebirth cycle. So it can really ground things down to dust and feel like it's really destroying everything in its path. But that's to allow for a greater foundation to rebuild upon. Again, there is that positive element to these things. Like, endings are a catalyst for new beginnings, and these new beginnings are ultimately going to be what we are needing more than what we may have thought. And that can feel really, really unsettling. Obviously, like there's a level of grief that comes with that, but it's clearing the way and creating space for what is meant for us. So Pluto retrograde begins May 7th, and that's going to continue on until October 16th. So this is again an invitation for us to go deeper and to do some shadow work. It's going to be drawn out. It's going to be over the next few months. It's going to be very subtle, and it's also going to have us face the relationship we have to the need for power, for control. Pluto rules the shadow sides of everything. And so when it's in its forward direct state, we can see stories of corruption that may have been once buried come to the surface. But when it's retrograde, this forces us to face ourselves. So again, all parts of ourselves, integrating all parts of ourselves, bringing love and care and compassion to all parts of ourselves. Again, unnerving, unsettling, we feel vulnerable, we feel exposed. It's going to be a subtle kind of undercurrent that's carrying us through the next few months though. So it won't be so in your face, maybe like what the full moon had felt like, but the full moon was almost like an initiation or just the beginnings of what may be unfolding now over the next few months. And who you are going to be on the other side of this may look completely different to who you were when this all first begins. So this retrograde is offering us an opportunity to get really honest with ourselves and to see how much of what we do and how we engage with the world is actually motivated for a need for recognition or for money or for a sense of being in control. Pluto retrograde is going to occur in the sign of Aquarius, which is that sign that embodies individuality and authenticity and uniqueness and quirk. And putting these two together, it's like an invitation to go deep into the shadows, to put to death this egoic need for external validation and to come back to what is really true for you and allow you to kind of put ego aside and to show up for humanity, because Aquarius is that really humanitarian driven zodiac. So there is a lot going on when we consider the Uranus and Gemini theme, Pluto retrograde, Scorpio full moon. All of these energies kind of tied together is going to create this catalyst for, I think, a rise up, a revolution, and hopefully and ideally an opportunity for us to come back together to more community-based living. More of this is going to be implied again when we have the lunar node shift sign. This isn't going to happen until later in July. So North Node will shift into Aquarius, again, the humanitarian sign, the sign that values authenticity. The South Node is going to be in Leo, that performative, ego-driven, self-centered. I'm not saying all Leos like this, but they're like the shadow traits of Leo. South Node. So we're putting them to bed, and we're stepping towards this greater sense of authenticity, of banding together for community support, caring for humanity, for caring for the planet, for doing our part. The smallest things do add up. And I think that's where it can feel so overwhelming when we are just bombarded with global catastrophe. Like the world is burning, yes, but there's always been chaos, always been destruction and death and harm, as well as good things also going on in the world simultaneously. Like the two exist at once. That has always been the case. I think now in this day and age, we are exposed to so much more because of the way we can stay connected through phones and through the internet. We're just seeing so much, and it can really feel like, well, what can I do as a soul person? Like, what difference can I really make? And there's so much that we can do just with like the smallest acts of where we put our money toward, what things we choose to engage with and share online, businesses that we support, just being more conscious around where you're purchasing things from, what organizations you're supporting. It's something I've been really mindful of in recent months. Is I've set myself the goal for the remainder of this year and hopefully continuing on as long as I can, to not make purchases of brand new things. Look on Depop, look at the op shops, look on Facebook Marketplace, look towards other places first to see what I can get secondhand, or if it's something I need to purchase, or if I need to just borrow it from someone, and just becoming really aware and mindful of what I'm doing and what I'm consuming and how I am contributing to things. In saying that, a great way we can contribute to making the world better and supporting the environment is cut AI use. Stop using AI. Destroying the planet. Using ChatGPT, OpenAI, the founder is a major supporter of Trump and has funded Trump. Also stealing from other artists, generating pornographic images, like the deepfake porn. And also studies have shown the use of AI is contributing to cognitive decline. It is making us dumber. I likely will keep rattling on about this. I really care about this. Let's just stop using AI. That's one way we can already make a huge difference, is just looking towards what we're consuming, who we're supporting, taking time to just be more considerate and conscious. Like the smallest things really do add up. And I know it can feel like it can feel quite defeating, but trust me, there is a lot that you can do as a soul person, and don't ever think that you don't matter and that your impact is not going to be felt, because it is. Moving on. Come mid-May, so the 17th of May, we then have a new moon in the sign of Taurus. This is a new beginning of intentional living, gives structure, it's creating more security, it's allowing us to feel more at ease physically, materially, emotionally. It is coming exact early hours of May 17th. So again, the 16th, if you want to do a new moon ritual that night, that's ideal. So this brings fresh opportunities for healing, and that comes through taking action, being courageous, and building your own confidence through this. So it's an opportunity to turn pain into motivation for progress. This is a time that we can set intentions that are aligned with our own personal growth. So if you're doing rituals here, working with earth elements, if you want to incorporate crystals, outside, if you can get outside, with touching grass, bare feet in the earth. We want to be tactile, we want it to feel sensual, we want to make it romantic and indulgent, because that is the essence of Taurus. Mars then enters Taurus, so that planet of action is then going to move into the sign of Taurus. So again, things can feel more at ease. We both have now Mercury and Mars in the sign of Taurus. We can settle into a slower, more soulful pace that's going to help close out the month. Our focus can shift more onto self-care, self-love, being a little indulgent, slow maxing. Again, slow maxing. I think with the turbulence of like the heavy Plutonian energy, that can be quite transformative, but that transformation can come through a death of parts of ourselves or elements of our lives and our rituals, a death to that for things to be reborn. Think of like Phoenix rising from the ashes. That is the essence of Pluto. That energy is like the undercurrent of what's going on. So taking these Taurus elements as the planets are shifting into this sign and slowing things down and grounding yourselves down is going to be so important for the month of May. So this is where doing things that feel really good, not just what looks good on the surface. So this is about home cooked meal, using the good china, like using your fancy glasses. I stopped drinking alcohol almost 2 years ago now, and got wine glasses still. So now I'll buy soda water or juice or whatever and pour it into my wine glass and make things really sensual and beautiful. This is about massages, massaging yourself, like taking time when you're moisturizing, really slowing it down, rubbing it into your skin, speaking affirmations, like making everything so sensual and beautiful. It's going on nature walks, it's incorporating more mindfulness, and that doesn't look like you have to sit there for 20 minutes meditating. That is making the shower more mindful, making a cup of tea more mindful, your commute to work more mindful, just creating a sense of more intention and mindfulness. And this is going to ultimately create a greater sense of like luxury in the way you live. So while all the going ons have been going on throughout this month, as a warning, Geminis have been slowly defrosting in the background, because the sun will move into Gemini come the 21st of May. Gemini season, it is all about embodying a sense of childlike curiosity and awe. And that is one of my greatest tips to helping you stay young. And I'm not talking about like aging and demonizing it at all. To age is a privilege and a gift, but there is such pressure put upon us to buy into all these cosmetic procedures and skincare things and the latest trends to help us stay young or whatever. When I'm like, I think it ultimately comes back to our energy and the way we view the world, and creating a sense of childlike wonder and curiosity. One, helps with stress management. Two, helps with anti-aging. And three, just adds more fun and whimsy and pleasure to your life. I think as adults, we take on this role of being responsible and serious, and we really sober up. And it's like, if we can just flip that and create a sense of play, pockets of play in your life, and staying childlike and being curious and following that curiosity is going to add years to your life. And if it does not add years to your life for whatever reason, those years that you have left on your life are going to be more pleasurable. I stand by that. It's about play, about exploration. It is about communication and expression. It can feel carefree and exciting. It can also feel a little restless. We may be prone to a little more boredom. We may be feeling a little on edge. We may be prone to more anxiety because of the chit chatters going on with that mercurial energy that is Gemini. Okay, so keeping yourself occupied and stimulated mentally, especially, is going to be key throughout this energy to kind of help keep it humming away at a really beautiful pace and not feeling overwhelmed or imbalanced in any way. Read more, write more, connect, share, follow the curiosity, let that guide you, because if you sit still and do nothing and stay stagnant for too long, that is going to be detrimental. Trust me, from one Gemini to the rest of you. Heed my warning. No, I'm just kidding. So that's essentially, that is what May is kind of carrying us into. I'm excited for it. But that, I mean, my solar return's coming up. So I'm just excited in general. I love this season. I love when it gets colder. That is all I have. I love you. You're inherently worthy. Never forget that. And I will see you all in the next video. Don't forget personal chat readings you can book. I'm going to pop the link down below. That's it. Find me on Instagram. Find me on TikTok. We can connect there. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Love you.